Hi YouTube, we're here with the Aero Commander again today. I took the liberty of pulling off that main landing gear before we started this video. I just got done fixing this nose gear, and I was noticing in the last video that the mains were really wiggling around a lot, especially with the heavier batteries. So I thought I would like to do something about that to support this so it doesn't wiggle as much. Plus, I wanted it to look a little bit more scale. And so I had a couple of different ideas, one of which was to use some stirrers. But the stirrers I got at the gas station were not the size I had hoped they would have been. Because as you can see, they're big. They're not small stirrers. And the small stirrers are what I was after. So, but we're going to still see if this won't work. So, first thing I had planned on doing is just trimming them. And once you trim them to length, you're not going to be able to feed them on like that, obviously. You don't want to have to take them apart to feed them on this way. So what I was thinking I would do is just trim them open. Try to get this square if I can first. Make it very close to square at least. That's good enough. Then basically we'll just go down the length and cut it. That's going to give us the ability to wrap this around the landing gear. This might work out just as good as my original plan. Okay, so you can see how that wants to kind of wrap upon itself. That'll help us out later. But originally, when I realized I wasn't going to get my thinner straws that I expected, I figured what I could do is I could take and sort of flatten this onto itself like that. And you see almost make like an airfoil shape. And it's kind of hard to do on there. So what I'm trying to do is I want to try to keep that seam parallel to the fold, just for looks, okay? And then I'm going to take this and then wrap it back around the landing gear shaft. Now I want the seam to go to the back, so I got to remind myself which side this goes on. It shouldn't really matter, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do this here. Now you're noticing that these are red, and that does look a little bit weird because why would the landing gear be red? Well, strangely enough, I looked into this plane and they matched the body color to the landing gear on quite a few of them that I found. So we'll just have to see. It might look a little bit weird, so we'll see how it turns out. The other thing is I was going to do a simulated Oleo on there, but I'm not 100% sure I'm going to have enough material to get away with it. So let's try that real quick. So the Oleo looks like a triangle. And I don't need this much material to accomplish my goal, which is to just thicken up the mass on that landing gear. And then I was thinking to kind of cut the hole in the middle of there. I thought maybe I could get away with something like this, where I would just use the hole punch. So we'll see if that does the trick. This is going through two thicknesses. And again, not 100% sure this is going to end up looking the way I want it to, but it should give us a little material to work with. In worst case scenario, you can melt the thing off if it looks really bad. And it's not going to hardly add any weight. So let's just make sure we're going the right direction with the Oleo, which I believe it went back on this plane. Or did it go back? Because these landing gear actually retracted and they spun and went like this. That's what these are. It's supposed to be the wheel. I think that's the way we're going to do it. So now I'm just going to take some non-foam safe CA, and I'm going to take some kicker. And this isn't going to be too horribly complicated what we're going to do. We're basically going to pull the Oleo to the bottom. The simulated Oleo, of course it's not a real Oleo. And then we're going to take and just run a drip of glue inside, preferably if you can, and then we're going to get a little kicker on there. and then that's going to hold that material on the top, and I want it to be held tight to the back. I'll let go in a second when that glue's had a chance to set up. And then we'll come down to the bottom. Now that that's set up, we'll do just a little bit more glue up there, kind of hold that shape. Okay, now this is gonna be a lot stronger already in terms of you know, when you put your heavier batteries in there. Now that kicker's already run down. Dang it, I was afraid that might happen. Sometimes when you try to glue this drinking straw material, it likes to separate. And I'm not 100% sure if there's maybe just a different type of glue that would hold it better, but I think I'm just going to try again. I mean, the whole idea is actually the CA is going to do the strengthening anyway. So I'm just kind of holding that CA tip right to the, letting the CA flow down in. Okay, just going to fill that cavity up. And you can see we've got a kind of an opening there, but I don't think anybody's ever going to see that. Then we'll come back here, just do a little bit more CA. Just kind of run it along the back here. Get into the simulated oleo. And just kind of hold it so that that glue goes where you expect it might need to go to keep and hold the shape. And honestly, that worked pretty easy. That was really easy. It was actually easier than fixing the nose gear, which I didn't expect to be hard. It wasn't hard, it just took forever, I guess. Okay, so we'll just let that be for a minute. Now obviously the CA is going to be brittle to a certain extent, but that's the idea, is you do want it to be more sturdy. And I wanted to show you the trick I used to get this stuff out. Just want to make sure there's no CA on my fingertips. I kind of pulled it to the side a little bit, and it came out a lot easier for me pulling it to the side like that, because you compress this spring and it pops out. Okay, so let's see the difference in weight real quick. We'll go ahead and plug in the scale, and then we'll let you guys see what the difference in weight between these two items are. Oops. Okay, so we'll zero the scale out. We've got the factory wheel, which is going to be about 1.8 grams. Then we got my modded wheel, which is 2.05. So we added just barely any. You know, we're talking about, you know, 0.15 grams. That's nothing. Okay, so all in all, we'll see if that adds enough strength to satisfy. Oh, look, I can see in there. That worked out nicely. Now I can just fill that void with the CA. Tip's clogged. I'll come right back. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. We got that tip unclogged. Now we're just going to fill up this little area here. Should make it actually really strong. Should be a very minimal increase in weight. Less than half a gram between both sides. And I would say it's a half a gram well spent in terms of spending. And if you don't like the color, you could always paint it, or just get a different color straw, as it were. And I'm confident that we'll still have a little bit of wiggle and a little bit of play, but it's going to be a little bit less aggressive. So now we have to try to duplicate that, which is always the tricky part, is to try to get a match on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'll let you guys watch the second side. We'll see how we do that. Again, for a refresher. It's a little bit firmer than a normal straw, this stir is. Which is not really a big factor one way or another. You could have used whatever straw you had, to be honest. Okay, so remember, try to keep your cut nice and straight. Okay, so now I want to take and make my seam. but I want this to be flat. Okay, just give it a couple of wiggles. Then we're going to look at where we had it before, with the understanding that it's going to just go onto the landing gear whichever direction it needs to be. If I got the Oleo wrong, I'll just put them on opposite sides. And then to match our Oleo cuts, we'll just come in here like that and start with the one side. Keep our 45 degrees approximately. We'll come back in and back cut. Now the hole, I felt like I got pretty lucky on the placement of the hole, so hopefully we won't have to redo this again. Sorry, blocking the camera. Okay. Oh, did I get it? I think I got it again. And that'll be the most delicate portion of the landing gear. But really not super critical one way or another. Okay, so you see that how those two hooks are lined up the same way? I want them to be lined up opposite. Well, actually, you know what? I'm just thinking this through out loud. That's on this side. This is on that side. So I want it to point backward, away from me. Just think things through on there, because you don't want to put them on and have them both going opposite directions. It'll look dumb. Okay, so let's double check that we're not like way shorter. It looks like we might be a little bit shorter. I think we're within reason. That's fine. So now just double checking. Yep, we got it the right way. Okay, so now on the last one I just kind of held on to it in the position I wanted, and we just ran a drip down the top. Just let it kind of wick down in there. Just a little bit of kicker to accelerate that. Let it set up a little bit. Doesn't seem like it's held at all yet. It held to the metal, it just didn't hold the metal and the plastic together well. Okay, so we'll do it again. Little residual kicker should hold up, or should start that process, that chemical reaction quickly. Okay, so now the other thing you could do is you could use epoxy for this, but I've always had a heck of a time keeping epoxy under control. Where it flows, or where it... Sorry if I got off camera there for a second, guys. So just resting the wheel on the table here. Okay, so we'll just flip this over. We'll just try to do a little bit of glue into this area here and let it run up the length. Yes, that worked pretty decent. Okay, so now a little bit of kicker. Not sure how the tire will respond to the kicker. I know it will not respond well to this glue if you get it on there, so do not do that. Okay, just holding the Oleo closed. Now I'm going to work this CA back, meaning I'm just going to start at the actual strut and work my way back so that it builds up. A couple of passes of that should take care of it. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of kicker in between each step. And just hold it here and let the glue run down. I don't know if you guys can see, it's probably kind of hard to see, but there's just a little skin of CA there. So we'll just fill that in a little bit more. Just a little bit more kicker. Let it set up. And that's pretty much all she wrote there. Might try to get a little bit more CA down the length of it, just to make it look a little bit smoother. We'll see. Now flip it upside down quick. Got a little drip forming, so I'm just going to take this and just wipe it. I'm just going to do a little kicker. And if you don't like the way this turns out, just be careful. If you use heat to take it off, you may make your spring material real brittle. So just don't go too crazy with the heat. Heat up something else, touch it to melt away the product. Don't heat this straight in the torch or the lighter. You could also stick heat shrink over this if you wanted to thicken it up and then run your glue down inside the heat shrink. That'd work pretty good. Now while we've got these off, Horizon has this nasty habit of leaving quite a bit of play on these wheels. And this one's, for whatever reason, really solid, so I'm not going to mess with that. Let's check the other one. It's just not wanting to slip, so I guess I'm going to leave it.